Hello and welcome to D-SETI. This is a conversation about data and unidentified aerial phenomenons, or UFOs. This conversation addresses the question, what can data tell us about UFO UAP sightings? And how can CE-5 or human-initiated contact experience be a quantitative and experimental method? Now, this conversation will be rather long and lengthy, so I invite you to pause the video or to use the timestamps to navigate in. Please know that you can go to Tableau Public to view the workbooks I'm presenting to get all of the data and to get the PDF version of a white paper. And so this really just walks through all of that. Now, I just want to give some background about myself. So why am I talking about data? I am primarily interested in dreams and ET contact, but I also have a long history of working with data. So I was lead developer at Community Attributes for a couple years, probably about 5 years ago, and built some great maps and learned a lot of skills here working with data to present it to some of their clients that have been really great. Like I really liked working on Seattle maps and graphs and things like this. So this is just kind of where I'm coming from. I am still working with the University of Washington through the Technology and Social Change Group to support this DA2I dashboards website that aggregates about 40 different metrics around the world to really give insights about what's going on in the country, around the world for connectivity, freedom, and gender. I've produced an interactive data report that has been presented by the Technology and Social Change Group in support of some of these UN-style agendas. So it brings a lot of data together and communicates that. So this has been my bread and butter kind of work from which I went into dreams and things like that. Just so you know that my interest in dreams is very personal, and I talk a lot about that through dseti.org, but just know that I have a commitment to quantitative scientific analysis of data. In 2015, I presented a survey of first-person accounts of non-ordinary reality to the International Association of the Study of Dreams conference, saying, hey, there's a lot of data here. Let's bring it together, mine it, get some insight. This project has come to fruition through my work with Dreamwell. I'm the Chief Dream Officer. That's dreamwellbewell.com. And we've brought together hundreds of thousands of dreams to build a data-driven report that doesn't necessarily interpret your dreams or dreams in general, but provides objective, quantitative observations as to what's going on in the dream world, at least from the data we're getting. That does come from Reddit's a huge source of it, but also our app, which you can download. It has courses on remembering your dreams, recording them, mindfulness, and all sorts of beautiful things. So I just wanted to walk through this as a context of meaning making from subjective reports. This report uses content analysis and keywords and topic analysis so that we can say, hey, dreams about UFOs have a striking lack of emotion. They focus on smells. Isn't that interesting? What are the symbols more present in dreams of UFOs than other dreams? Well, you know, jets, sky, UFO, lasers, magnifying glasses, vision. How interesting is that? So this is really giving us a report, and that kind of makes sense to me. Elves, wow, that's interesting. So then we can say who are in these reports, and it's like, well, fantastic beings are more present than not, and I think that's primarily due to the language of aliens, right? Aliens or ETs. So they're more than usual. Everything else less than usual. And we can check out the emotions. So there's about the same amount of fear as other dreams, and then less emotions. Who is in UFO dreams? Well, people from home, the transportation words, and what's happening in these things. Well, we've got disasters, actually, more than usual. Um, so, interestingly, sex is about less than usual, is what it's saying. So we can go through and get all of these different characteristics from here. We do see a correlation between sleep paralysis, lucid dreaming, and UFO dreams. Although it's not triggering the key words for recurrent nightmares. And so I just wanted to share that. It's much more prevalent. You're seeing UFOs in the dream. So that's really interesting. And we've got some interpretations and some dreams you can click in. So this is really just an example of doing quantitative analysis with qualitative subjective experiences. So to continue on in my work background, I've worked with LightNet.org back when it was Exo-Metaverse, and it is a citizen science platform that is moving away from pure data collection and experimentation to small group supports and things like that, support groups and trainings about sci phenomena in general. So if you're interested in working with that, please check out lightnet.org. This is a reporting system that collects a lot of data and puts it on a map, and you can check out some reports there. This report form has been built out according to specifications for research by Dr. Sean Etzborn-Hargens, as well as modeled on some of the free Beyond UFO surveys. So the Citizen Science Network is collecting this data that has been used in a report. I've also supported ET Let's Talk. This is CE-5, that's Human Initiated Contact Experience. Costa is the founder. He's a great guy that teaches about making contact through mindful intention, contact with ETs or UFOs or UAPs. And he runs a global CE-5 event, meaning people register and say, hey, we're having a CE-5 event. You can find an event using this form. You can also report events or look into existing reports here. So all of this data I've been working with in this field, doing these processes, and I thought, well, we need to actually look at what the UFO data says and the human initiated contact data says. So that's really what I'm doing, is saying, hey, actually we've collected this data. I'm really interested in looking at this data. And so what do we find? So I produced a set of Tableau workbooks. This is actually my personal account. LightNet is holding the more definitive accounts on their Tableau public profile. That's LightNet. But they are released under Creative Commons license, so attribution sort of situation, because it is based on other people's work as well. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. But I just wanted to orient, hey, look, there's a bunch of reports. You can get to that. And I'm going to walk through this report shortly. So I have a report here, LightNet Open Data Map. It goes through my hypotheses, and I've treated this like a white paper, right? So I've treated this like a white paper. It has introductions, it has methodologies, it has analysis, hypotheses, etc. And then I produced 2 more reports as a iteration cycle on this project to explore some of the things we were seeing in the data and some questions I had. So I want to just call that out and say this is where we're going. But now let's go back and talk about the data we'll look at. So something that was very instrumental was this updb.app. So this has a phenomenon database you can download from August 2023. Please credit and link UPDB. We are doing that. Now this data comes from, you can search these reports, right? And I'm going to go orange orb, because orange orbs are really interesting to me now looking at this data and investigating some of the context, because this may be they may be physical manifestations of non-physical processes. And so it gives a number of different results. We've got 6,000 results for orange orbs from this data set, and we can click in on one of these and get some information. Now this comes from the MUFONCMS.com, but it's actually, if you click, into where the data is actually stored, it is coming from an internet archive. So this data set's kind of interesting. I'm working with it, but I am not publishing it, just to let you know. So I'm working with this, and I'm presenting the results of an analysis of search engine style, internet archive style reports here. So that's really important to know. And I talk about that in the methods, because I'm really respectful of other people's research, but we really should just aggregate this together, do some research, and come to some conclusions. So I'll talk about that shortly. So we've covered the LightNet connection, and LightNet really got me in contact with a number of interesting researchers, and I met Dr. Sean Esborn Hargens through one of the hangouts there and applied for his PhD program pretty much the next week, and rest has been history. I've been leaving LightNet primarily because they need more support with community web development, and I am more interested in this data aspect. And so this is the sort of kind of culmination of that experience together, is really bringing forward this open data set. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity to do that. So we've got a bunch of data. The UPDB has 300,000 records. I estimated that LightNet has collected about 10,000 reports of contact, and that kind of whittled down to about 3,000 reports that could be used in this analysis. But to give you context, let's just look at some other examples of data coming together. So one of the first examples that we'll reference is the UFO sighting desk reference. So in 2020, Mark Sims ran an event called the Harmonic Convergence. Zenka Caro of Exometaverse and then LightNet supported in data collection of that. The next year, Mark Sims ran an event called the Making Contact Convention, and brought in a couple of people. One was Richard Dolan to talk about data. Another was the LightNet team, and the third person was Cheryl Costa, who wrote this book. And that conversation really illuminated things for me as to the nature of data collection and analysis here. But this has been a really kind of inspiration as to what we might be able to do with data analysis with more modern tools like Tableau or Python and things like that. When we search the scholarly record, we get papers like this, some info about data visualization, tracking. Generally, they describe data sets, they do some analysis, and that's that. It's not 100% informative as to what's going on, and it's not interactive. You can't necessarily replicate it easily, which is why we're doing it in Tableau. You can just copy the workbook and work with that. Or you can use the Python scripts using the Jupyter notebooks or whatever. Here we've got another one talking about the National UFO Reporting Center database. Let me see. You know, you can do heat map analysis. You can say, what's going on here? And I want to call out a couple more. We've got text analysis, going like, what's in here, right? So you have to apply a technique and a method to data sets in order to elucidate meaning. And you generally should do that in the context of specific hypotheses. So you're testing hypothesis with data, you're not just supporting claims. And so that's sort of what I wanted to call out, say, hey, we could do this in a much more open way, but also a much more rigorous way. So here's an example of a master's thesis about all of this text mining, analysis, that sort of thing. I looked here for some examples, right? So they've got, just info about stuff, their experience. I would say it's worthwhile looking at all of these things. But the service I wanted to offer was interactivity and ease of analysis with the data sets. They do have other data sets, right? So here's some data set on Kaggle. They're looking at the data sets, right? That sort of thing. Geography, mostly United States, right? I don't know what is that by state. California is a big one, right? This one was interesting to me because it came to some clear observations, right? He shares the story, right? Cleans up the data, etc. What's going on here? Then asking questions: what shapes are most commonly seen in what locations, etc. Patterns over time. Here, I believe this is the one that gave us day of the month, right? I think this is one. This one says fireworks are mistaken from UFOs. So this is really interesting. I'm grateful for this because this helps contextualize some of the data and gives us a sense of what's going on. So that's sort of the general context of my background, my inquiry here, and I'd love to just now. Oh yeah, I like this map too, just because it looks great. This is a Tableau map that is sort of an inspiration here. But let's get to the open data map. This is the LightNet open data map. It is based on updb.app data and data collected from lightnet.org in conjunction with the harmonic convergence and ET Let's Talk. And so this is a map. It shows all the data. This is in Tableau. You can slice and dice it according to different dimensions and measures. So I want to walk through this report with you. You can play around. I wanted to see actually, like when you hover over these, it gives you a timeline. We have one of the hypotheses here is that there's like a CE-5, a human-initiated contact bystander effect. So if people are doing human-initiated contact in a city, right, and they're calling down craft that are physical or non-physical yet seen by people psychically or whatever, there should be an actual measurable effect, right? So people in Seattle doing human-initiated contact in Seattle should bring forward UFO sightings that for people who aren't doing human-initiated contact. So there's pages to this report. This is open data. I talk about my hypotheses, right? I've documented the hypotheses before the analysis. I conduct the analysis. I report the analysis, even though some of the analysis have mistakes in it, right? So I'm documenting my inquiry here. There's other reports that are generated from this data set that are less documentation of hypothesis, but again, it's important just to share our research together. So the methods I use, right? Collecting, I analyze the reports. I used Python, Jupyter Notebooks. You can get to GitHub that has my analysis in it. So you can do this yourself on the data that, once again, the data actually was anonymized and excerpted. So that's how I see this as a fair use of open data sets, right? Existing open data sets. I'm citing the people that have collected this, and I'm not publishing personally identifiable information, nor am I publishing the full text of this. Rather, I'm publishing the results of an analysis. So this is highly derivative and attributed to the proper sources. Next step. Okay, so all of these fields. So I did an analysis to really bring about a number of different fields. We've got analysis like what is the shape. We've got emotional words. We've got words that classify its contact type. And so this gives you some information as to what that is. The things that you need to know is I brought in moon phase data and sunspot data, and I did a sentiment analysis. I identified which emotion words were in here, and I produced a really quick kind of keyword analysis script myself. So the results are, here are explore the hypotheses that I've added. I said, hey, there's going to be more human-initiated contact events during the new moon phase because ETLS talk promotes a new moon-based global event. And this is a calibration test to say, does this make sense? Is the data really resulting in what we're expecting? And yes, it does. The human-initiated contact has primarily new moon sightings, while UAP data has both new moon and full moon with significantly less to my eyes than the newer full in the waxing and waning. Again, all of these comparisons are not statistically tested. Rather, these are kind of common sense explorations of data. We should be able to see effects in the data without, it's like mining for statistical significance. So that's a form of fraud. And so we should be really able to see data and the effects of it and make sense as to why we're performing statistical action upon this data. Otherwise, it's academic mumbo jumbo. So we broke apart the different types of major data sources here. It's very consistent, right, with the notion that new moons are when people schedule CE-5. So this doesn't tell us anything about the fundamental nature of CE-5. It's just when people are scheduling it is the new moon. All right, hypothesis 2. There will be a correlation between moon phase and the number of UAP sightings, right? So actually now we're looking into the UAP sightings. There is a correlation showing the comparison with human-initiated contact. I believe this finding will hold, and we're going to explore that a little bit more in one of the future charts. I've also busted this apart, sliced and diced it according to the primary emotion of the report. So look at this. The way I would interpret this is the new moon has 10 reports that are primarily disgusting, right? So disgust is primarily prevalent in the new moon, while with full moon, we've got more trust and sadness and anger and anticipation. There is effect size. The size of the sample will affect this. This requires further analysis to make conclusions. Once again, we're just looking at, are there signals coming through? Can we discern this? Maybe this is interesting, maybe not. Third hypothesis is really a documentation of my expectation that the harmonic convergence 2020 data will skew observations about human-initiated contact over time because there are many reports within days of each other. And this line shows most of the human-initiated contact reports happen at a specific time. Now that we have that information, we then can look for CE-5 bystander reports, that sort of thing. All right, next page brings us to hypothesis 4. There will be a correlation between number of sunspots, UAP sightings, and human-initiated contact reports. I produced a graphic that brought in sunspots and UAP sightings. The graphic in this report tricked me for a few days, and it showed that when the number of sunspots changed, I could visually see a correlation between the number of UAP sightings. This was an artifact of how I joined the data together and not an artifact of reality. But I produced a further report to explore that, and I'm leaving this hypothesis in to just illuminate a level of caution we need anytime we approach reported data. Okay, so hypothesis 5, HICE events in a city will increase the number of UAP sightings, which should be obvious over time. So here we've got, this report should actually be showing, I think there's a filter issue here. It should be showing, you could be able to hover over this and see that see the number of human initiated contacts and UAP sightings. I will fix this, but explore that in the analysis. Oh, here. I mean, okay. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're showing off the human initiated stuff here, something like that. There's something going on with this that map. This is the map I'm really interested in here, and I wanted to show what California is like, because we do see a correlative spike between the harmonic convergence and a spike in California UAP reports. So it looks like California has a disproportionate representation of human initiated contact because that's where the event physically happened. So we may actually be able to measure bystander effects with this data set. That's really what I wanted to come to. So hypothesis 6 and 7 is that human-initiated contact events will primarily be positive in sentiment and emotion, while UAP sightings will be mixed. And we do see that come through this sentiment analysis, which gives a number from -1 to +1 for the value of these reports. So primarily, HICE events are positive, and UAP sightings have more negativity. Again, we need a test statistically for sample size effects and things like that. But this is just showing, yeah, indeed, on average, they are more positive, right? And so we can slice and dice this and see what are the emotions primarily associated with this. And one thing to know that these emotions, there's a number of different ways that the data is applied and tagged, so it's important to look into that when we make conclusions. I'm not making any conclusions really, I'm making more observations. And so my idea here is that this can be used as a means to inspire future research. We've also got emotions by the method of human-initiated contact. If it's angelic contact or dreams or channeling. So interestingly, there are some patterns here that are worth checking out. Page 10, result 8, right? So I wanted to apply machine learning topic analysis. This is something that I've done with my brother on the Dreamwell data set, the Dreamwell dictionary, to apply the BERT topic analysis, use a Python library to this. So this analyzes the text of the reports and automatically creates topics associated with these things. So I've looked for specific shape words in the text. If cigar is there, or cylinder, or circle, or flying saucer, or disc, right? That sort of thing. If it's there, I tag it with this category, and then I also have the automatically generated topics. Again, these are sort of a little bit of a manual kind of guess check process, but we can see, right, Steve Greer, Dr. Greer, CE-5 is actually a topic, a unique topic within the data set as determined by a machine learning algorithm, right? So those would be interesting to look into. Things that say this was larger or smaller, right? Some of these words, right, has some interesting patterns coming through. Meditation, felt, feel, right? These are words that are coming through. This can give a number. This might be a direct way to get more insight about the variety of shapes and sizes and contents of experience. Okay. So I do have some discussion around here about the experience. You can read that if you want on the report. I've sort of walked through that here. And then finally, we've got conclusions. So I linked to the additional research. Right. I believe actually we should be doing broad data collection and reports and aggregating it and using machine learning and natural language processing to get a real-time reporting system going that is meaningful and we can test hypotheses with. I don't want this to be an academic effort, nor do I want it to be siloed as sort of marketing data or something like that. It needs to really be an effort that validates or explores hypotheses that are documented, not after the fact supporting narratives that are convenient for the researcher, right? So that's really what I care about here. I want to now click into the other reports that I built. So I'll start with this because this is the human initiated contact data set, right? So the question we had was like, okay, so LightNet's collected 10,000 reports of these things. Can we gather data from them that answer my questions, right? And so we've got about 3,000 reports that are mappable, that we can apply analysis to. And this is what it looks like. It's primarily harmonic convergence stuff. It gives us a huge data set there. That would be very interesting to look into. And I primarily want to look into it through the interactions of orbs. Mark Sims' experience with orbs was important. This event was important for John Ramirez's public speaking. He had interactions with orbs. So I believe that perhaps due to the specific connections of the organizers that we might see more orbs, and specifically orbs associated with something like telepathic messaging. This is a hypothesis. I haven't explored it fully yet at all, but that's something that I want to do with this data set. So that's where this is coming from. Again, we've got LightNet stuff. We've got ET Let's Talk. ET Let's Talk has more data too. That wasn't easy to include because it needed specific cleaning that was outside of the scope of this work. All right, so let's see. I'm going to reconnect here. So there are different types. Sorry about the formatting of this. This was fixed in the LightNet versions of this, but not the working stuff I've got on my dashboards. So we've got, it's primarily physical, next is mental, spiritual, and then there's some dream reports, right? And so how do people make contact? Well, primarily through meditation, intention, etc. And so then we can check this out. Sentiment by contact types. Again, it's primarily positive sentiment. And then we've got some information about how dreams are the least negative and most positive, right? And so there's a sort of spectrum we're seeing here that kind of makes sense. And we also have sentiment by technique. So that's pretty good to look at. So what are the techniques that produce really positive experiences, right? What are the ones that produce negative ones, right? So we've got some information around that. Again, these are not statistically significant. We haven't done those tests yet. Someday I would like to. What are the emotions present in human-initiated contact experience? Well, most of the time it's positive. There's a lot of trust, some anticipation, some fear. Really, there's not that much sadness. And so we can get some reports about that. again, sliced and diced by dream, mental, or physical. So we can just use this to get some insight, right? So mental, spiritual contact, 35% have fear associated with them, while in dream is 28%, right? Are these meaningful? What are the error bars on this? This is a question that we should answer, but that requires collaborative data work and support of this work. And all of this stuff takes a lot of time to put together. So that's really important to understand. We can slice and dice by contact technique, right? So again, I care about dreams. So right, so we have a kind of a band of positive feelings and fear. These are the primary emotions associated with contact, right? Fear and positive. And interestingly, right, if you're using plant medicine, there's a lot more fear, right? That makes sense to me. And so that sort of validates the understanding. These are like, there's not enough data in here to really make strong conclusions about human-initiated contact versus UAP data. The UAP data has 300,000 records. In the time period I looked at, there was 40,000 records. We're now looking at 3,000 records of stuff from human-initiated contact. And so I would really like to look at a data set that saturates the population, right? Like the MUFON and NUFORC data sets do with UAP. I'd like to see that happen with human-initiated contact events, right? Next steps on this, you can click into LightNet, learn more, report, etc., or you can explore my work at D-SETI.org. The final bit of presentation is observations of UAP reports, sunspots, and moon phase. This is pretty interesting to me. I wanted to show connections between UFO stuff and what can we do when we bring data together, right? And so I looked for two different measures that represent a whole lot. So there's moon phase data. We know that's connected with human cycles, like the full moon, yeah, right, there's increase of, lunacy during the full moon, and sunspot data I know is associated with geomagnetic activity, and I know geomagnetic activity is associated with dream telepathy, right? So these are things that are established. So I said, okay, let's look at the moon phase, and let's look to see the percent of the moon illuminated as a proxy for what phase it's in. Because that was really easy to derive. One day has one value, right? I looked for the same thing with sunspot data, number of sunspots observed, and that gives us a lot of data. So the first chart here, number of sunspots observed, and you can see some data there. Here we've got some moon phase data, and then we've got the UAP reports. I built this chart because Tableau has some challenge in making graphs. I'm not 100%. This hasn't been rigorously tested, but I just wanted to explore more about this data. So we're seeing moon phase correlations. Let me moon phase correlations. We're also seeing, right, the UAP sightings happen during the full moon and new moon, not waxing and waning. That shows up here. We're seeing some connection between sunspot cycles, right? So I'm not seeing it at the local level. I'm seeing it at a more general level now, and I would love to do a report that's not in Tableau to validate the Tableau experience, because I was bitten once by this, and I might be bitten twice by this. So again, that takes time, energy, research effort, and I have 3 children, and I'm doing this generally on the side. It took about 2 years to elevate the priority of this work in the context of the LightNet Citizen Science Network. The community website was prioritized over and above this work repeatedly, because that is how donations were raised, and that totally makes sense. But the question is, who actually funds this work? How is this work funded? And those are the questions that need to be answered. If we need to just look at data, right? That takes time, money, energy, resources. And I just wanted to reiterate that fact, because I would love to look into this more. There's so much more to get out of this data, but someone actually just needs to be doing that work. And I know that the LightNet team is very supportive of this, but they're moving towards supporting small group experiences and trainings of people to do psychic things like bend spoons or see UFOs or physical levitations. They don't have time to go through a long-standing data process like a science organization generally has funds to do. And so that's where we're at. So I'm again just looking at the sunspot data, and I'm seeing these with a broad eye. I'm seeing actually there may be a correlation. What if, right? What if our reporting data is increasing and UFO stuff has reached a saturation point at around 2008, and so now the MUFON stuff is actually, when we see it rises and changes, it's because the UFOs are showing up or not because the reporting instrument has increased its scope, right? So the internet comes about, we get a lot more reports, and now I'm saying that perhaps we've achieved saturation with the MUFON New Fork data. We need to do that with human-initiated contact data. And so then we can see this chart as an interesting expression of what's actually happening out there, not as an effect of the reporting size or sample size. So I just looked at this and I'm like, yeah, actually, I kind of see that. I see in 2008, probably there's a bunch of internet stuff happening. We have a lot more reports, right? And then we're hitting a natural peak here with a sunspot. It's going down, except here in COVID times, right? COVID lockdown happened. It spikes back up. Now we achieve in summer of, right after COVID, we've got, in 2021, it goes back to the normal levels, right? So we're as we return to COVID normalcy, we return back to the normal UAP cycles, and then with this increase of solar activity, we're seeing another increase. That's a hypothesis I'd love to test out. Take more analysis, right? So here I'm dropping in on the most recent cycle of sunspot data. And the COVID stuff, again, we see this huge spike in April 2020. Again, we're going an increase of sunspot numbers. So maybe we're seeing, right, this experience. The other thing, the other hypothesis is that maybe, right, just like the moon phase data, new moons and full moons, perfect, right? Waxing, waning, no, it's less. So then what if we get increases of activity in peaks and troughs of sunspot, and as it's transitioning, not so much. We don't know because no one's actually fully looked at this data. We need much more experience there, and that's why I'm talking about it. So I wanted to zoom in about annual patterns, and I shared a link earlier that made the observation that a lot of these reports are misidentified fireworks. And so this is really helpful to look at because it calibrates our eyes as to what these reports actually are or could be. So we see a peak in July. We also see a local peak in January. And so that I know from that data center report is that, hey, that's July 4th, that's New Year's, those are fireworks. This is the US, right, we're talking about primarily. And look at this, right? In the warmer seasons, we're seeing more reports. So we have the ability to start correcting for human activity, and then we'll be able to see with more signal. We're reducing the noise, we're increasing the signal of insight regarding these reports when we start looking at this. So I just wanted to share that. That makes it really clear to me. And then next steps, again, you can report the CE-5 stuff at lightnet.org, or learn more about me and my work at D-SETI.org. I do really want to just show that off a little bit, so you have a sense as to the work I'm doing. This is a major theoretic focus I have, is working with dreams and the missing time experience, and I'm really interested in evidence supporting the ET contact experience. So I look at that primarily through research. I have a bunch of briefings about what's going on with dreams and ETs. And then I have a reference database for academic references. This is like an annotated bibliography. Gives you some insight about my work, as well as other references that I found are really important to understand. I've got an analysis database of both body marks and UAP sightings. So we're really pulling off, we're using data. I'm using data to explore this, and I'm doing so in a way that brings together both subjective modes of inquiry and objective means of knowledge. So if you want to learn more, please do check that out. I want to also call out this work, the Paradoxical Compass and the Monroe Institute UAP. You can get to this on my website. ET-Alamy is a open data source where I took a sighting of a UFO that was really well filmed, and it had a pulsation pattern. I analyzed that, and I put that into visualization software and Tableau, and I open sourced those analysis techniques, calling them the Paradoxical Compass after the work of Dr. John Dee. If you want to understand that context there, right, you can just learn about John Dee and the Paradoxical Compass and how that was instrumental in the navigation to a new world. So these are examples of the reports I've made of UAP pulsations, also geometric analysis of them. So that's another way we're using data, or an evidence, to drive forward an inquiry into human-initiated contact, unidentified aerial phenomena, and encounters. So please do check that out. A lot of references. I do want to show off Missing Time Found. I'm proud of this work. So you can get this book, download it, or buy a donation, or buy it on Amazon. I cover a lot of the topics here, so you have a sense of it, as well as frequently asked questions to understand how I, as someone who is very committed to objective, quantitative inquiry, also am committed to a subjective, qualitative approach. So we can use both of these. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater in either case, right? So this is really the case I'm making, and I would call for more. Multiple ways of knowing, right? I would call for more rigor and quantitative understanding in the human-initiated contact experience studies, because just asking someone whether or not they had contact, right? And it's hard to, you need more data, you need an inquiry, you need a hypothesis that are tested, right? Otherwise, it is a fishing expedition. And so we need to establish hypotheses, we need to establish an open data commons, and we need to test our hypotheses in documented ways that do not lead to academic fraud or confusions regarding statistical significance, etc., or methodology. So I'm really calling for that with human-initiated contact experiences. At the same time, I'm calling for more quantitative explorations of the data using techniques derived from dream studies. So they know how to study subjective experiences quantitatively, So let's use those methods to study the subjective experience of UAP sightings, even though we're looking at the emotional experience of looking at a UFO. We're dealing with subjective stuff. That doesn't mean we have to throw that away because it's not hard sensor data, right? We can just know how people, we can look to see how people are, using forms in general on the internet and correct by known processes. It's not hard to do. It just takes time and forethought and generally support. I would love to do this work. I would love to bring this forward, and I'd love to see. Right, I did this work primarily because you look for UFO data analysis, open data set. Right, you look for that as like what do we have here? What do we have here? How much understanding is there? Right, Scholar, Google Scholar, right. There's not a lot. We can't find a ton. There is some research, but there aren't major conclusions. And I'd love just to see this happen in an open data way that's really helpful, that's really supportive of the community. And so that's why I'm talking about this. And I'm very grateful for the work and support of LightNet. And finally, very grateful for the capacity and opportunity to complete this sort of vocational work in bringing forward human-initiated contact experience data, and bringing it in the context of UAP sightings and bringing insight and capacity of vision to both of those through Tableau Public work. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do that. And I'm very grateful for everyone who has entered their experience in any form that I've built, or anyone or any form that brought this data to my computer into the analysis. So thank you for all of that. Thanks for being here with me in this rather long and probably dry presentation of data. I know it's very somewhat disappointing to look at data and to be exhilarated by the potentials of AI or big data sets, and to really be confronted by the ice cold water of the reality of working with data, right? Like you go, I'd love to see incredible narratives emerge out of this, and we're just at a spot where we go, are all of these reports in the New Fork Data Center actually UFOs? Are the reports we're collecting of human-initiated contact, are they really good sources of knowledge, or do we need to collect other data to support that? Have we been collecting effective data or not? These are the questions we need to be asking now. We need to be looking at the data. Are there insights that can come out of this data? We're just going, is this related? I mean, how do we make sense of it? Is sort of where we're at now. And I'm grateful for anyone that supports this work in this exploration. And thank you for your interest. And I do just want to finally ground this reflection, this exploration, and this inquiry in a personal conviction and testimony that even though human-initiated contact, even though extraterrestrial non-human intelligence, UAP sightings, all of these things are confusing, sometimes fearful, that I believe we individually and collectively have the capacity to gain meaning, insight from these experiences for our individual and collective benefit. And I believe that we can do and maximize and magnify this benefit simply by asking data-driven questions about human experience in a way that is conventional, using conventional methods of data analysis, conventional methods of data collection, using publicly available tools. We can do that and gain insight. It does not have to wait for the Arrow office to publish their data set. We can work with the messy data of human reports, because Marketers know how to do that because people who analyze reviews on Amazon know how to do that because dream scientists know how to do that. So we, as a people, know how to do it. Somebody just needs to do it. And that's why I'm publishing. That's why I've been working in the way I have. And I just hope and pray that this can move forward in a way that is transformative and empowering to every single individual within our great nations, right? Not just specific elite members or covert things or whatever. This is a human, a human heritage that we are working with, and the data that is derived from it is a commons, much like the natural world as a commons. So let's treat it like that. Once again, thank you for being here, and may you have wonderful experiences connecting with yourself and with the universe through these variety of means and methods.